G'day viewers. Well, my latest dream of the extreme right eating themselves and losing whatever electoral gains they've made seems to be coming along nicely with Australia's One Nation imploding. Not yet completely, but the signs are there that this leaky ship is gonna go down. Now, for those who don't know, One Nation are formed on the explicitly racist platform that white people should get to dictate who's in the country and what they're allowed to do. Like all other racist parties, they have this absurd thing where they insist they're not racist, despite the fact founder Pauline Hanson's maiden speech to Parliament talked about Australia being swamped by Asians, and her latest foray into Parliament, that maiden speech started with being swamped by Muslims. So yeah, when you explicitly make racism your central platform, you're racist, okay? You, every person who ever supports One Nation, racist. It's by dictionary definition, okay? Now, we've seen the rise in neo-Nazis, right-wing populists, aka blatantly racist, sexist morons around the world, and Hanson sees gains for herself. She did it last federal election, and she thinks it's going to be bigger, and particularly in Queensland. She's been gearing up for One Nation to go after the next state election in Queensland, and they think they're going to win lots of seats. Logic would suggest otherwise, but logic has failed miserably for the last year or so, and who knows? Queensland, if they're going to succeed anywhere, it's there. For those who don't know, it's basically Australia's Alabama. Now, it isn't all smooth sailing, even in Queensland. This week was the second time one of their prospective MPs was kicked out, and for the same reason, for being really homophobic online. Shan Ju Lin tweeted this ridiculous garbage with a picture of two gay men who'd been accused or possibly convicted of child molestation. Saying, see, it's like abnormal sex leads to abnormal crime, and homosexuals should be treated as patients and get treatment. I just want to throw it out there. If you're going to connect sexuality directly to crime, heterosexuals are in a shit ton of trouble. Like, it's utterly farcical to draw that line, but if you're going to draw it the whole way. Now, she was the second Queenslander to go. The first one was a guy called Andy Semple, who was just as bad. But you look at him, you say, okay, I see why you're in a racist party. Doesn't surprise me, you're homophobic. But when you look at Shan Ju Lin, you're going, you're in the party that went on and on about Australia being swamped by Asians? What is actually going on with you? I think there's probably a doctoral thesis for a psychology student in that. It's beyond me why she thinks she has a place in One Nation, but apparently rank homophobia is too much even for Pauline Hanson. As to why that's a bridge too far for Pauline, look, maybe she just finds homophobia offensive. Maybe it's tied in to her right-hand man, a Johnny-come-lately in the ranks of One Nation, one James Ashby, who's actually gay. And I think it's not going to be very long until some of the more conservative forces within One Nation really start to accentuate that, because Ashby has made no friends. By all accounts, he's really pushy, autocratic. There have been questions raised that he may have been improperly pushing people in One Nation to use his company to make election material. But most notably is the falling out. A guy called Ian Nelson who's been involved with Hanson for 20 years, says he still likes Hanson, really doesn't like Ashby, really went hard at Ashby, which turned out to be not a great idea because he's now their former treasurer. He's on the outs with Pauline Hanson, and James Ashby is on the ins. And this little tangled web goes all over because they're having problems everywhere. In Western Australia, a guy I've mentioned in videos before, James Cullerton, is on the losing end of several law court cases that will almost definitely see him losing the seat he won in the election, because, you know, when you get convicted of particular crimes, including being bankrupt, you're not allowed to be in the Senate or Parliament. There's almost no chance he's holding on. He got cut loose by Hanson ages ago, which made him go fairly spack and angry. It got to this weird stage where outside the court this past week, he claimed he was assaulted by a guy called Anthony Fells, who's, again, former Liberal Party. I may not have mentioned that. James Ashby was a staffer for members of the former Liberal Party. Again, in terms of complication, he was a staffer for the former Speaker, and it just got so weird. It's very convoluted. I talked about it at the time. There was a great example of dirty politics where Gillard's minority government essentially bribed a Liberal MP who was on the outs to be the Speaker. And the Libs, who were led by Tony Abbott in opposition at that time, really didn't like that, and they went hard, and it got to do with Ashby making allegations against Slipper, which seemed to all be proven untrue. And there were the implications of Ashby having stolen, like, the diary of Peter Slipper, which would be a crime, and he hasn't been prosecuted for anything yet. Who knows? You know, the feds said there was something there, but he wasn't prosecuted. It's pretty complicated in the Conservative wing of Australian politics, where former Liberal Party members going over to the One Nation side, including this guy, Anthony Fells, was a state Liberal MP. He's on the outs with the Libs. He wants to join One Nation. He's not in great favour with Pauline Hanson. It might still happen. So they're falling to pieces. And it seems like if there's a lesson to be had here, it's like, if you try and get a bunch of fringe wingnuts together into a political movement, it may not hold together very well, because, you know, they're not the most balanced people in the world, and they're rather fractious and don't get along with others, and it's all egos and pushing. We saw it in Australia with Clive Palmer's party. We're seeing it now with One Nation, and I would not be at all surprised if we see it happen in America with Donald Trump. We definitely saw it in England with the Brexit mob all falling out and knifing each other. So it appears if you push your politics right over there to the extreme, whether it's the extreme left or the extreme right, you get people with extreme personalities that don't play well together, and it all ends up blowing up in your face. You know, some people say gloating is bad, but if One Nation goes down in flames, you better believe I'll be gloating over the grave of those racist, redneck pieces of shit.